It's been just over a month since Hurricane Joaquin wreaked havoc in a number of Family Island communities, leaving its trail of destruction behind. The degree of devastation so great that officials estimate the recovery effort will take a considerable amount of time, and rebuilding will be well into the years.
Among the concerns of hurricane victims right now, though, in addition to their physical state, is their mental capacity. Dr. Krista Nottage is among that group of 79 medical practitioners deployed following the storm. Recently back from Crooked Island, she tells of her experience and those she left behind.
Flying into Crooked Island, I was struck initially by how beautiful it is. You come in over sandbanks and a gorgeous rustic-looking lighthouse, but then you start to focus in on what's happening inside of the landmass, and it was absolutely flat. I'd never been to Crooked Island before, so I have no comparison against which to put what I saw. But essentially, persons have only the foundation of their homes. Those places that were designated as shelters, such as the local church, were also completely decimated. So I hiked into the town with my bags and my Wellington boots, I'm sure looking just like a Nasuvian who has no idea where she is. And persons were gathered at the community clinic, which I found because all government clinics are pink, right? So I walked towards the pink building, and there I found most of the persons from Landrell Point gathered. During my 5-day stay there, I stayed until October 11th, we all lived in the clinic because there was no shelter. And everyone was fed out of the clinic. And thank the Lord that the clinic had a generator that was working with running water and electricity.
Dr. Nottage says she was one of the 16 people who had to stay at the clinic while on Crooked Island.
Going into this post-storm town, you're not sure what you're going to face, but I arrived maybe a day or two after the British Army had evacuated most of the persons who were very ill, as well as the women and children. And what was striking was that most of the persons left were healthy, at least physically healthy, but they had gone through immense emotional duress. One story of 8 persons spending 19 hours in their boat tied to the house outside in the storm. 19 hours in a Category 4 hurricane. I can't even imagine. And so many times they would come into the office to show me a crushed finger, but actually they wanted to talk about what had happened to them. So I'm very pleased to learn that we have sent psychiatric and psychological support to those persons. The other area of need that was highlighted during my visit was shelter. Because we were all camping out together in the small clinic and everybody being fed out of the same place, and it was an immense stress on the local nurses there. Nurse Celeste, who's up in Colonel Hill, and Nurse Beulah Carroll, who's down in Landrell Point. So I recently heard from Nurse Carroll that 6 mobile homes have arrived, at least in Landrell Point. I'm not sure about Colonel Hill. So that is a step in the right direction. Shelter is so important in being able to rebuild your home and rebuild your life. You have to have somewhere to stay. And so I'm optimistic that things will only get better, and I look forward to visiting Crooked Island again in the future.
Education Minister the Honorable Jerome Fitzgerald providing an update on the restoration efforts of schools impacted by the storm. He said they're also working with private partners to ensure that schools are prepared and students are back in the classroom as soon as possible.
We know that in San Salvador, the schools are up and running. In Long Island, we have accommodated all of the students there. The Mangrove Bush in Morrisville, they will be ready for reoccupation by in the next week to 10 days. Work is moving steadily there. In Crooked Island, both the junior and senior high school, all the materials are now on island. And a donor, Bahamian donor benefactor, contributed those supplies and is paying for the contractor and workmen, and they arrived on island yesterday. I saw the photos where they have begun work. In Acklands, the high school should be open today. They had an issue with water, which we resolved yesterday, and the primary schools we have appointed contractors to do the work there.
As for Crooked Island students, the minister said they had to be relocated.
For the most part, Crooked Island got the most damage, physical damage. Long Island had water damage to a great extent, but Crooked Island is the one that's we had to do the most construction. All of them have been relocated. Yeah, all of the students we have. Been quite a number of students that have come into New Providence. Some of them will stay until the end of the term, and we understand some may even stay for the whole school year. But we've made accommodation for all of the students, so we're satisfied now we can account for where all the students are.
With the Bahamas and Cuba weeks away from celebrating 41 years of diplomatic relations, the country's ambassador designate to the Bahamas, Her Excellency Ismara Mercedes Varga Walter, presented her letters of credence to Governor General Her Excellency Dame Marguerite Pinling today. The new ambassador from Cuba says ties between both countries are strong, and there's political will within her home country to further strengthen bilateral ties. She also thanked government's long-standing support for Cuba's resolution against the economic, financial, and commercial blockade imposed on Cuba by the United States.
Despite the challenges faced by the Republic of Cuba, our government remains committed to the principles of cooperation and solidarity with other sister nations in areas of critical importance such as health, education, technical assistance, protection of environment, and culture.
The Governor General reaffirmed the Bahamas' commitment to expanding bilateral ties with Cuba. Through technical cooperation, the Governor General says Cuba has helped many Bahamians through educational expertise and medical diplomacy. She says both countries have enjoyed a long history of cordial relations that is grounded in a shared Caribbean identity.
The Bahamas is aware of the challenges, political, social, and economic, which will confront your nation. The Bahamas, however, commends the resilience of the Cuban nation and its practice of giving, which has resulted in the Cuban people enriching the lives of mankind of high and low estate on all major continents of the world.